Hello, my name is Mary Neely. I am a tutor, a teacher, a parent, and the founder of Evolved Education Company. We are a full-service tutoring and advisement company for all of your educational solutions. On this podcast, we'll explore ideas, techniques, and resources that you can use to support your school-aged child to conquer any learning issue. I'm so glad you're here. In this episode, I am interviewing Spencer Moravek, who is a tutor with Evolved Education Company. Spencer and I have been working together for 4 years, which you will hear us discuss in the episode. Spencer comes to us with a BA from DePaul University, where he studied psychology. Spencer also took part in a number of studies in the university, which he does discuss in this podcast. Spencer tutors a myriad of different subjects, including ELA, math, science, test preparation, and executive functioning at Evolved Education Company. I'm so pleased to bring you this episode where you're going to definitely learn from Spencer. I feel like every time I get in the room with Spencer, I am left with some knowledge that I did not arrive at when I walked in. So I'm so excited to get this started. And without further ado, here's Spencer. Hi, Spencer. Okay, so we are going to talk today together because I know how long, I don't even know how long. How long have we been working together?
We're just about to wrap up on school year number 4.
Wow. So
I know.
Fun.
I know.
I love it. I love it. And I love learning from you. You're just such a source of, information and like just evolution too. Just a lot of really great new information from your brain and your practice with students. So I'm excited to talk with you today. We're going to talk a little bit about social emotional pieces. And I just kind of want to start off by asking if you could tell me how you define anxiety.
Thing. So the way that I think about anxiety when I'm working with students is obviously not a clinical definition, but I just think about it as rather than like this state of being that a student has no escape from or anything like that. The metaphor I like to use is anxiety is just a fuel for the machine. Right? Anxiety, I think everybody knows this. We're just about to roll up on tax day. Some of us haven't started on our taxes yet, but certainly that is a way in which the anxiety, the negative feelings that I have towards doing my taxes are on this end of actually getting it done. They're stopping me from doing them. But eventually you can use that same negative energy to run the machine. Like I know I am literally able to do my taxes and could do them right now if, I gave myself the time. But that anxiety, that bubbling feeling, that feeling like you need to be forced to do something is something that can help you to do things and get past the things that you find uncomfortable. Right? Yeah. So I don't even like to think of it as a wholly negative force because there are times when you're anxious. Because you're anxious, you study a bunch and you do well on the test. So I just don't like to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Because there are some positive feelings about that little buzz, that little extra bit of energy you can tap into with anxiety. Now for me, at least what I've noticed in tutoring is the point at which that goes awry is when that is the only energy source you're tapping into, right? So for me, anxiety is just an energy source. It's not a particularly clean one, but it does burn hot, right? The same way that I could chug just a bunch of coffee. Technically, that's still me working on anxiety. That's just me trying to get like adrenaline levels to spike so that I can get something done. But just like if I had chugged a bunch of coffee right before this interview, probably wouldn't be feeling great. Could get it done. It's just going to have a long-term negative effect. And that's more of what I look at with students is not whether they're using anxiety in the moment to drive them to get something done. It's the somewhat debilitating nature of using that as your only fuel over time. So I like to use anxiety as a point of reference for students, but slowly but surely wean them off of the honestly just less healthy coping mechanism of anxiety.
Makes really, really good sense. And I had really not thought of the differentiation of energy. And I wonder if you could actually speak a little bit more about what would be another source of energy that you might propose to a student who only has anxiety fueling their work.
Sure. So this is going to make me sound like an old fogey, but I still think it's effective. Boredom, just pure, good, honest, old-fashioned boredom. If students are working in a low-impact climate, a lot of what you'll hear from students is like, well, I don't want to do that. It's boring, right? What they're really telling you is just that there's no stakes. They're not using that anxiety to try and fuel their actual achievement academically, right? So it's not even as if they don't know whether they're using anxiety or not. I think anytime a student tells you, well, I don't want to do that assignment, it's boring, right? So what they're trying to do is they're trying to, whether they know it or not, they're trying to artificially spike their anxiety levels so that they feel something, right? It's like, I know, especially when I was in high school, the only way that I got writing assignments done was beyond the last minute, feverishly trying to write and get them done. And that was, in an unhealthy sense, it was really fun, right? I would use the anxiety of needing to get a paper done last minute. It made it feel life or death. It obviously wasn't, but we're just tricking our little lizard brains into thinking that this is something that's so important, has to be done now, you get it done. And 9 times out of 10, when you're working on that sort of energy style, you can get it done. So I like to reframe, instead of just focusing on anxiety, I think it's so important to also reframe and really think about the utilization of boredom. Why is it something that, just because initially it doesn't seem like the most high impact, terrifying, scary, whatever thing, you simply don't tackle it, right? So I like to use what students call boredom, and help them explore that and help them find, okay, like I had a student yesterday. He is working on some material for the Revolutionary War. And he's like, oh, we have to write about someone famous in the Revolutionary War. I don't want to write about Jefferson again. And I said, well, fantastic. Let's not do that. And I think for him, it was like this immediate, like, wait a minute, I don't have, what about, I guess we'll just work on Washington, I guess. And I kept hitting those, like, I guess, if I have to, I guess. And so I just kept naming names until we got to, and I want to get her name right. I believe her name is Dorthea Fox. I can look that up in a second. But she is famous in the Revolution because what she used to do is she would get British soldiers. She would invite them over to her house, to her farm for dinner. While at dinner, she would secretly give them a lot of alcohol. And then she and her daughter would take the guns away of the soldiers after they had had too much alcohol. And they, hand to God, this is the truth, they had a secret conch that they would hide in their backyard that they would blow so neighbors would come over and get the soldiers who were then inebriated, right? Wow. And so we hear all these stories of, like, everybody knows Jefferson backwards and forwards. Everyone knows, Lincoln, Washington, just the American heroes. Everyone knows everything about them. So rather than just sit with that and think that, okay, this topic has to be completely boring, let's do a lot more work to find the things you find to be interesting, right? So it's not just Dorthea. We also, as part of his project, we were working on the first ever deployed military submarine was used during the American Revolution. It was in Boston Harbor. It was no more than a tin can that they just had kind of floating through Boston Harbor to try and basically poke holes in British ships, right?
Fascinating.
Yeah. And so rather than just look at it as either this is strictly boring, there's nothing here that interests me, and I guess I'm just going to do the boring thing, I guess, or waiting until the last minute and just trying to have that anxiety spike to get the homework done, I try and take just a middle path of, like, great, I love the fact that you're bored right now. I love the fact that you're anxious right now. Whatever feeling you're feeling, let's see if we can dive in and find something that you find more interesting. He is a huge, just like mechanics and big toys, like his dream in life is he just wants to be someone that puts together skyscrapers. That's it.
Nice.
So it's like, great, let's talk about the mechanics and the engineering behind the war machine in the Revolutionary War, right? So rather than just let's tamp down anxiety or let's just focus on boredom, great, you're clearly not interested in this. Let's work harder to find something you are interested in.
It's so interesting. I really honestly have never thought about meeting the kids where they are with regard to boredom. I think that's so fascinating, but it makes perfect sense in a lot of ways in terms of it's also a fuel, right? If you go into it and you keep looking for something that connects to you, what a gift you're going to give to the world, because you'll find something that you yourself are interested in and you get to play and imagine it and learn about it. So interesting. Thank you.
No, of course.
So I suppose this sort of goes in tandem with what you just talked about, but I wonder if there's another idea you have in terms of this question, which is you've been able to tutor students with high levels of anxiety to be productive learners and students. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what's the secret to that success.
At least with the students that I've worked with, it is a ton of work on not just helping them to use other energy sources other than just your good old-fashioned boredom, your good old-fashioned anxiety. But this is where I think teachers can be incredibly helpful as well, is, okay, categorically, no matter how much work we've done, let's say, for example, a student is just not interested in the works of Emily Bronte, and we have to do, an entire paper just on Emily Bronte, and student is bored to tears, don't know what to do. Well, rather than just bashing our heads against it and just trying to force out something, I love just getting in a dialogue with the teacher and saying, like, hey, it seems like he's really struggling to connect with her works. Maybe we can include some more autobiographical information, right? So we're still completing a project based on Emily Bronte, but they might not get as much out of the symbolism of her works. They may find her more interesting on a human level. We're still able to meet the guidelines of the project and help the student be able to discuss with their peers, but it also makes for a more interesting discussion in class because they're bringing to class the thing they might find most interesting, right? And so just constantly focusing on individualizing, and everyone's in this together. I've literally never met a teacher who's just eager to fail a student. No, teachers get into this profession because they love the pursuit of learning. And so rather than just pigeonhole students into a very specific lane in which they're finding themselves unhappy or unfulfilled or anything like that, let's find out how to make the project work for them rather than just slamming into a brick wall over and over.
Amazing. Yes, I so agree with that. I think it's really such a testament to your success as a tutor too, that you really get to know your students in such a way. And then you are also so happy to think in this collaborative way with the teachers and suggest ways for students to arrive at their learning potential, essentially, and also recognizing the signs of when students are in that slog. And we just don't need kids to be in the slog. Do you feel the slog is a feeder for the anxiety? Do you feel if we leave students, let's just say they don't have you to help advocate for them, and let's say that they then have to write about Bronte's works and it's really painful, do you feel that contributes to a continuation of the anxiety? And tell me more about what happens, do you think, if you don't get involved in the way you just suggested?
What a fun question, because I love the fact that, yes, as much as it is kind of easy for me, especially if someone's listening and they're like, look, I've talked to my kid's teacher a dozen times, nothing is happening, I feel like we're stuck. That negativity spiral is super common. So I don't want to say like, and it's so easy, just talk to someone, because it's not always going to be that straightforward. So it sounds overly simplified, but in life, like taxes, I have to do my taxes. I really don't want to. right? It's not fun. So building in some sort of reward system that makes it so that the work that you're doing, even if in the microsecond that you're doing it isn't interesting, you at least have something to look forward to. Because for too many students, okay, they're not getting what they want or in a lot of cases need out of their classwork, and they have nothing else to look forward to. Right. So they're stuck in this feeling of anxiety while also not really having a light at the end of the tunnel. So if we have a student who's in a little bit more of a strict environment, especially like later middle school, I feel like that's when I tend to find students who they're being asked to do higher level work, but not necessarily trusted to do something that's a little bit more geared towards their learning style. I find that middle school, especially, you're not going to find as much just kind of free form learning like that. So what you can still do is say, okay, you're bored to death. I feel bad now. I'm picking on Emily Bronte. You're bored to death with reading Emily Bronte. What can we do? For some students, I'll just say, okay, 10 minutes of this session is devoted to, we're just going to free associate. We're going to find a topic that you're interested in, and we're going to do nothing but write and research about that topic that you really like. And so at the end of the day, if I have an hour-long session and I'm devoting, let's say, 10 minutes to it, if I can get 50 minutes of amazing, high-quality work out of a student just by offering them a 10-minute reprieve of something they truly enjoy, even something that small, a 5-to-1 ratio of hard work to something that they view as just a reward, the results are better, I would say, every single time. I'm sure there's an exception to that rule, but by and large, the anxiety that I see a lot of students facing is directly related to not only am I not having fun, not only do I not get this, but I feel like even once I do finish it, there's just another assignment over the horizon.
Right. Oh, that is so good. It's so true. I mean, I think we lose sight of this in our adult lives, in our adult brains when we're working with children too, because I think we don't truly give them that time to enjoy and to have that pleasure. And it's such an important aspect of their experience as well. And so I know for my practice, I've often asked parents, what does your child enjoy doing? And then I say to them, what does your child enjoy doing? And they can respond hopefully with an answer. And then we can also make sure that enjoyed or preferred activity is actually happening. So we're not just in the slog. Yeah, that's really, really helpful and important. I agree. So I also know that your work, although it has encompassed a lot of tutoring and you do so many wonderful, different types of tutoring programs here, but you've also been involved in some academic studies. And I would love for the audience just to hear a little bit about those and how in a couple of minutes, we can close up with this, but just
Sure.
that I know your interests in working with students does, of course, span from academics to the social emotional. And so I just wanted to give everyone a chance to learn from you in that way too. So could you speak a little bit about the studies that you've been involved in and teach us something there too?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about anxiety, then I get to talk about one that doesn't come up a bunch. So while I was working in the brain and language lab at DePaul, we had a study that was geared towards learning and anxiety. So the basics of the study, incredibly straightforward. We would just have participants read an English passage and then answer questions based on that passage. Simple as could be. So we split that up into 3 groups. We had our control group, just read the passage, answer the questions. And I'll make it up. I'll say that they got, on average, 8 out of 10 questions right. Then we would have people who we would just give them a small jump scare during the test itself. And that was just as kind of a cheeky way to simulate anxiety and some of the negative experiences you can have while doing homework. Just like, I'm doing homework. Oh my God, I forgot about my math homework, right? We all have those jumps as we're trying to complete some sort of assignment. And what we found was in that second group where we gave them a small jump scare that we didn't tell them about first, they would get at about 6 out of 10. So a pretty significant drop in overall levels of cognition. And just the interesting thing though, because that wasn't new. That's not new at all. We all know that if you're scared, you're not going to learn as well. And that's why a lot of times you'll have students that have larger problems that bubble up and affect their coursework. So I think everybody kind of knows that on some level. But the interesting thing is with a third group, we would tell them up front that we were going to give them a jump scare. But what we would do is we wouldn't actually do it. So we would just let it hang there as a specter the entire time that they were trying to do their reading comprehension test, but we would never actually scare them. And those people got roughly a 4 out of 10. So their average level of correct responses dropped by half because of the specter of anxiety rather than the actual anxiety-causing event that they weren't even expecting in the first place. And that's what I find so interesting about just how anxiety relates to learning is the worst thing for people wasn't even being scared. It's the fear of being scared is what wound up just tanking their scores overall. And so when I'm working with students, I like to keep that in the back of my head because sometimes it's not even the thing that's in front of them necessarily that's causing them anxiety. It's what do I not know? What might be happening next? If that anxiety snowballs, that takes down students' test scores, at least in our study, by half. So just as a parent, of a child, I think it is important to have that piece of information in your back pocket. Sometimes it's not even, well, what's worrying you right now? What's the thing right now? What's happening right now? It might literally not be anything, but it could be the fear of something that might happen in the future. And that's what actually winds up being more detrimental than the scary thing that's in front of you right at that moment.
So fascinating. Great study. I love Spencer often comes to our groups and talks about his studies and works. And I'm just always so fascinated by the way the brain works. And also though, truly, it is important to keep that in mind as a parent. And I so thank you. So Spencer, we're going to close things up. I just so thank you so much for
absolutely
teaching us today and taking the time to learn about us. And Spencer is a part of the Evolved Education team here and has been tutoring students in all different kinds of ways. And I just so appreciate your gifts to us. And thank you so much again.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to Evolved Education. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and write a review. You can send us any and all educational questions to hello@evolveded.com and we'll try to address it in our upcoming episodes. That's evolveded, evolveded.com. To learn more about how we can support you, go to evolveded.com and book a complimentary 15-minute phone call with us. Are you a professional educator? You can join our teaching school membership platform to gain support and engage in a community interested in learning together. Click on the link in our show notes to learn more.